All right, MA Marignon turned 66. I think this is going to be a somewhat quiet one for us, but that will change soon. I receive a messenger from Pelagia, and they're just sending us a message back, thanking us for the gems that we donated. Because, like I said, I just really haven't been able to support them, effectively. And I certainly could have attacked Yis's land holdings and chose not to. So I haven't felt great about that. And also, they just seem like a cool person. And of course, it is in our interest to keep them alive. The longer that they keep Yus busy, the fewer elves that we will have in our land. So this is not completely altruistic. We finish research in Evocation, level 8, mainly for Pillar of Fire, but there could be some other useful things in there. Bringing our werewolves in, still doing some remote site searching. Man, I don't know, this swamp, this is the one that's right next to Bandar Log. It has been really worthless. There's no magic sites there. So anyway, we're bringing in some skeletons for our underwater shenanigans, if it comes to that. Moving mages around. Speaking of underwater shenanigans, our scouts that have spirit sight, searching for blood sites, doesn't work out. We teleport our horror harmonica golem in, and here is the battle that results from that on top of Phalegra. That is hopefully going to be at least temporarily holding that massive army in. It does look like there's some patrolling here, right? We see a mage, and I don't think the Mouflon come as part of the province defense. But yeah, Mouflon, actually they have better morale than I expected, but not good morale, and they get an unlucky roll here, and they rout like almost immediately thanks to Wailing Winds. Our Golem is just trying to buff himself up to make it less likely that he's going to be sent home, but then he's going to be bringing, here come the horrors, and there's really not a lot here I think that's going to, like this guy's going to be really tough. And then, there's already some other routes. Phalegra is pretty susceptible, I think, to Wailing Winds, at least like, their regular armies. Their super combatants much more able to stand up to something like Wailing Winds. I do think, I don't know, it's hard to say, right? What to patrol with, what not to patrol with. But if they had patrolled with a super combatant, I think we probably would have been sent home relatively quickly, and this could have worked out for them. But as it stands, there is some danger. You never know when somebody's going to get a lucky hit, right, and send us home. But yeah, this is looking pretty good for us. We probably won't be able to hold this, right? Phalegra definitely has the forces, like I was talking about, to push us off this fort. So we'll see if they choose to stay inside or if they choose to come out and, try to send our horror harmonica golem home. But the good news for us is that, we don't really risk a whole lot. So yeah, they were patrolling with a lot of their units. And now most of those, like, again, because it's Wailing Winds, not too many of them died, and most of them probably just retreated successfully into the fortifications, so not that bad of a loss for them, but always dangerous, right, to be committing a lot of units without really any mage support, which is, what we saw here. That said, like, Mouflon and Helot warriors aren't particularly, those are somewhat easily replaceable for Phalegra, though at this point they don't have a ton of infrastructure left, so a little harder to replace. We find an enchanted gate. That's an astral site. That's very nice. Do some other site searching that misses. We do find a site here, Cave of Dark Rites. That sounds interesting, possibly death gems. 28 blood slaves, so getting some blood income, but certainly not enough to summon a lot of vampires. But of course, one of the advantages of vampires is that they can also do blood hunting. So once we start the vampire engine, that'll be a whole nother thing. But we'll see how deeply we go into blood anyway. Like I said, kind of wanted to go with the Infinite Knights this playthrough, and those two, while they kind of fight each other. You kind of have to destroy your gold income to an extent to get blood. So here we have a harpy fighting two birds. This is an interesting fight. And bird friends. So this looks like two casts of Call of the Winds, or at least like a commander from a previous one. So that was between Asphodel and Ulm, in case that wasn't obvious. Ulm seems to be using a lot of these Great Hawk units. I will say as early age Ulm, you don't get a ton of air income, so it can be kind of hard to spend your air gems, and I'm thinking that, middle age Ulm might be the same way. So this does work out for Ulm. They take a province, although they defend a province, and that's in Phaecia, actually. So it looks like Phaecia has been locked down by birds, which is one of the capitals that Asphodel owns. And then Asphodel is attacking somewhere. This is an actual attack from a thug and friend. Yeah, this is one of the issues with, transformation, is that, like, sometimes you become a dragonfly, which is significantly less useful than some other forms. But, still a mage. And they are up against, yeah, we've seen this army before from Ulm. It's got this hero, who I will click on eventually. Yeah, she's got some more like defensive-oriented kit. She's probably the leader, I'm thinking. Yeah, she has a ton of leadership, so probably more looking at like an army commander. And then, yeah, just like your Legions of Steel, Strength of Giants stuff. He does have an Undead Mage here, which is a little interesting, and a Behemoth, but mostly just, you know, middle-aged Ulm stuff, which is not good news because, yeah, I don't know if there's really like any super combatant killing element in this army. Yeah, and here comes the Foul Vapors. That's also a thing that Ulm really doesn't like to see. And, you know, there's no nature support here. Nature is not a path that middle-aged Ulm gets, right? So it's difficult to get nature support, but they do have a lot of territory, and, you know, I would expect them, you know, there's got to be some lizard shamans, you know, or even just other tribe mages. You know, at this point in the game, it's late enough where, especially against Asphodel, I don't even think this is the first time they've used Foul Vapors, so, yeah, I don't know. Committing this much stuff with no plan for Foul Vapors is very dangerous, and as a result, it does not work out for them. So, yeah, like I said, I mean, you know, absolutely we're like, what, the 4th person or 3.5th person to be stabbing Asphodel, right? There's no honor in this upcoming war here, but at the same time, like, Asphodel's position, I wouldn't exactly call it desperate, especially if we chose not to get involved. I think if we did not get involved, there is possibly a universe where Asphodel comes out on top against all of them, right? Because this is a pretty massive loss for Ulm. In terms of mages, it's not so bad, so, you know, that's good. And it's not like these infantry are expensive, but again, they can be pretty difficult to mass again quickly. So if Ulm loses too many forces like this, you know, in rapid succession, they just might find themselves in a situation where they, you know, can't effectively resist Asphodel's attacks. But like I said, they do have a lot of territory, so, you know, they're a long way from being defeated, and Asphodel's about to have other problems in the form of us, so they'll probably be okay. This is that massive force. Oh no, they're attacking the throne. I don't see this working out. Although I don't know what kind of mage support they have here. Yeah, they have some Vakamura sorcerers, so I think, you know, that is, maybe they're thinking shatter and stuff, because these are earth mages. Lightning resistance, sure. Like that's along the right idea, or the right path. But most of the lightning resistance spells provide like +5, which just isn't that useful. Like, yeah, you can see these guys are getting absolutely deleted. Now, these are maybe, I don't know about the right units, but they do deal a lot of damage, and that's kind of what you're going to need to cut through. But, like, yeah, this guy is ethereal. I don't know. If they do win, the losses are going to be horrendous. Here's some Earth Elementals coming out, probably off script, but the Earth Elementals are not going to be useful at all. Yeah, these Monolith Thrones, are pretty dangerous, especially with all these Watchers. I know a lot of people say Magic Duel is the way to go, but that seems like an expensive way. You know, it's like you Magic Duel the Monolith, and then there's no Magic Leadership for the Watchers. So that would be, you know, a neat trick, but I don't think Shiniyama really gets much, if any, Astral, so it's not really an option for them. And yeah, this is not the first time this throne has defeated a force, and that's pretty painful for Shiniyama. We probably will not go immediately for that throne. You know, I'll have to do some thinking, because this could easily have been one of our armies, and like, yeah, the losses are fairly high, though no mage losses for Shiniyama, so this is at least like all replaceable, if somewhat. Yeah, it's pretty expensive. Yeah, an expensive gold loss, and you know, there's a few losses here on the throne, but you know, the dangerous stuff, the Monolith and the Watchers, for the most part, are untouched, so that probably won't be the last force that throne defeats. We'll see. And then this is our army storming another throne fortification. And yeah, there's nothing inside. We will lose some stuff, right? Those rock hurlers are pretty dangerous. Probably could have been more efficient. Oh, of course, yeah, we don't lose anything. That's good. So yeah, but I was wrong. So I'm not sure why the rock hurlers didn't manage to you know, cause any casualties there. Maybe we went through our script, had Fog Warriors up, and then here's another storm. This is of one of Pelagia's forts, and yeah, we donated a few gems for this. And here's the Monolith again, and good amount of mage support. Let's see, it doesn't look like the mages at least have much in the way of gems, and you know, I'm sure they don't have a ton. Yeah, the Monolith has plenty of gems though. That's really going to be the main thing. Let's see, Relief coming up from Yis. And yeah, we've seen this force from Yis before. Let's see, what do we have? Friendly Currents, also from Yis, just like an army-wide buff for their troops. pretty much just relying on the sacreds, it seems like, for the most part. And there's a doom that's probably coming from Pelagia. I don't know, maybe not. Definitely all of Yis's stuff is cursed now, and yeah, Pelagia is not. So that must have come from Pelagia. And then let's see, that's probably the fatigue play, Curse of Stones, I'm guessing. Ouch, there's actually some starvation here on Yis's side, which probably is fine. These sacreds, yeah, I mean, you see the morale is somewhat low due to the starvation, but their base morale is decent, and they probably aren't going to be taking a ton of casualties, at least not from Pelagia's troops. So Pelagia may be just looking to time this battle out, right? They've stuffed a bunch of garbage into the gap. Let's see, is that poison resistance? No, they got mass protection off, which will definitely like help their garbage survive longer. Let's bring up the battle timer. Yeah, we still have a long way to go. There is some advancing and casting of spells. Kind of surprised we're not seeing any, okay, yeah, there we go. There's some lightning bolt. Yeah, weirdly, lightning works underwater in the world of Dominions. A lot of other spells do not, but, you know, just air magic OP, I guess. So, yeah, we can definitely going to be seeing, you know, lightning strikes. Like, that's probably going to be dealing, I don't know about the majority of the damage. You can see that, like, basically any of the garbage that moves into this gap just gets murdered over and over again by the Yisian Sacreds, and I don't think there's really been, you know, any casualties caused, you know, by the garbage at least, and yeah, they're not going to be able to hold. So it's really a question of, you know, can they kill the monolith? And like, yeah, I don't know. They've definitely struggled to in the past, although, yeah, a lot of lightning damage, and the sacreds are able to get, you know, some chip damage through, and the monolith does go down, and that's probably Pelagia's like best option for defense at this point. So that's pretty rough. That said, like, I'm not really sure what you can do, you know, against a 563 unit Yisian army that has 167 Movark Knights and 19 Morgan Sorceresses. These ladies are incredibly expensive. They're more than a temple, and they're slow to recruit. So this is maybe not the entire strength of Yis, but this, you're pretty much looking at, what is this, turn 66? Like 66 turns worth of recruitment of Yis's stuff, more or less. So yeah, Pelagia loses everything. Yis doesn't really lose too much. I think this war is not going to be lasting too much longer. Hopefully Yis keeps this doom stack together for us and, you know, continues to use it against Pelagia, but certainly if I was Yis, I would start thinking about splitting this up, because I'm not sure that they really need this level of commitment for what Pelagia has left. That said, our underwater scouting is pretty limited, so, you know, maybe Pelagia has a reserve of stuff that we don't know about, but probably not. And then we lose a scout in man's territory. We are trying to move them out, but yeah, we're probably gonna, wow, we found a lot of, speaking of scouts, okay. So we have some unexpected events. Let's see. Oh, one of our commanders entered the Cave of Dark Rites. So their soul is tainted. Probably we should not tell the witch hunters, but they have unexpected influence over creatures of mystical origin. So that just sounds like increased magic leadership, which, it's okay. We get a high priest who probably also comes with a bunch of militia, decent patrollers at least, and then, okay, we get rid of some free thinkers, don't want any of that, and then we lose some tax records, as happens with misfortune. Hopefully some of these, a monster boar. Okay, yes, we were trying to get rid of this monster boar. Excellent. So we can now move these patrollers out, and this is actually a somewhat valuable province, so happy to get rid of this guy. And then this is the Cult of Gaia, I think, right? So we're able to kill that without too much difficulty. And then we find a scout from man who's trying to move into our territory. This is where we're trying to get rid of that monster boar, but happy to get rid of scouts as well. We get rid of a spy from Ulm and Nazca, so that's nice. And then Asphodel obviously is scouting us. We get rid of one of those. A Yisian scout somewhere. I'm not sure where this is. But yeah, we've been finding a lot of Yisian scouts lately. And then, yeah, here's another scout from man. But this stuff, like, you know, this is just people shadowing our army that are interested in the war. So, like, these, I mean, definitely want to get rid of these scouts, but these scouts are, I think, less of an indicator that someone is, interested in attacking you soon, and more just like, hey, they're trying to keep an eye on things, which we don't want them to do. But the Yissian scouts, you can see, are not concentrated on our armies. They're kind of just all over our territory and trying to hop on top of a lot of our forts. So I think we can expect an attack from Yiss relatively soon, but we're about to have a ton of elf problems. And then this is another one of our forts, our wolves. Sadly, we actually lose a couple of them. And then Ariu, like I said, it's about to get exciting, I suspect. And then we cure an affliction, and that's nice. And then our patrollers also get rid of filthy brigands, so we lose someone to a disease. And I'll catch you guys after the jump. All right, this is the situation and what we did about it. I'm recording this one after the fact. To review a couple of important points, our non-aggression pact with Asphodel will end on turn 68. So on turn 67, next turn, we will be able to issue attack orders on both sides. I forgot to mention it last turn, but Shiniyama also ended their non-aggression pact with us the same turn that all of it went down. So we've confirmed with them as well that turn 68 is when hostilities will begin, so orders can be issued on turn 67. And I believe that the same is true for Ariu, though we haven't actually talked with them at this point. But considering that they're all non-aggression pact 3s and they were all kind of triggered by the same event, I think they should all be ending at the same time. Which does mean that things will be getting pretty exciting for us next turn. We're getting 2 of our armies that we're going to be sending in against Asphodel into position. So this army is going to be hanging out here in Troll Woods, and we're hopefully going to be using it to reduce and eliminate this fortification with an eye to taking Nabah. And then we have this other army here that's going to be hanging out in these caves, and they'll be going after this fortification. I suspect that this pillaging is actually being done by Asphodel, so probably an indication that they feel that they can't hold it, though possibly it's the barbarians doing the pillaging from the event. Even though the barbarian events do usually result in population and gold loss, I don't think it normally shows up with this. That's what this torch icon is indicates that someone is pillaging the province. So Asphodel's probably not looking to hold this in the long term, which makes sense, obviously, 4v1. That doesn't mean that they'll abandon it completely, but, they don't want to leave a useful province behind for us. Once we take this fortification, then, we may go elsewhere with our army. Like, Shiniyama is going to be a problem. We can see that they're bringing up some more troops to reinforce this army, though this army did take a lot of losses taking this fortification from Tianchi. But, we are doing some recruitment down here, lots more knights, pretty much just the knights in this location. But we do have like a decent number of garrison forces in the area. Not to mention plenty of mages, mostly just research mages, but now I believe we have Evocation 8. Yeah, we have Evocation 8, so all these guys can be turned into Pillar of Fire casters. It is definitely kind of costly in terms of fire gems, but we do have a lot of fire gems. So we should be fairly safe in this location from Shiniyama. And we will have our offensives, more or less in place, though we are hoping to lead it off. Let's see, I think we have some thugs. Yeah, there's a werewolf thug moving out, so we may try to use the thug to lock down this fortification ahead of our army attacking. We're also getting, a lot of friars into position to start, preaching forward our dominion. Our dominion's actually already spilling into this area, probably somewhat by design. Well, actually, no. Asphodel has quite a few temples over here. So I think it's just the fact that, as Marignon, you end up building a lot of temples, and we also hold the throne of bureaucracy, so our dominion gets a bonus when pushing against other people's dominion. We definitely plan, on utilizing that more once the war starts. Doing a little recruiting over here. I think this is mostly, just flagellants, a few swordsmen as well. We will want to be moving counter raiders out into a lot of provinces, but, no need to do that ahead of schedule. We still want to maintain as much research as possible, but we are expecting a lot of elves to pop into our territory. We do have one more fortification going up, so I don't think this is quite going to finish in time. Yeah, not quite. So we are moving this force here that patrolled out. I believe that was the fertility cult. They're going to be moving up there to try to cover that and make sure that it finishes. That'll hopefully make our life a little bit easier on the border here with all the raiding that we're expecting. We are still doing a bunch of recruitment in Nazca. Yeah, this army is just, sort of reduced across the board in terms of units. And then we will actually be moving out immediately against Phlegra In retrospect, would have been nice to get the claim on this throne. We do have a Holy 3 in here somewhere. Yeah, here he is. So we could have got a claim on this throne. This is the throne of Earth. We don't have a ton of Earth mages. Like, we are getting some from the enchantresses, and also we've had the crystal throne for a long time, so we do have a lot more Earth mages than Marignon normally would have, but especially up in this location, like, yeah, the crystal mages can teleport, but we like to use astral pearls for a lot of other things. And this is actually so far away now that, like, they can't do it in one teleport. Like, it actually takes them 2 teleports to get up here. And, like, that's starting to get pretty painful, pretty slow, pretty expensive, to bring a lot of Earth mages up. So we're definitely light on Earth mages, on this end of the Empire. And I think it's something, like, I didn't really quite identify yet because, so far we've been able to rely on shifting these guys around pretty effectively to get our Earth magic needs in place. But, things are ticking down. We're about to be fighting a lot more people, so there's definitely a time pressure to try to finish off Felegra. And I believe this turn we're launching somewhere. No, actually our Horror Harmonica Gullum is just hanging out at home. I thought we were sending him forward, but it looks like the plan is to just use our army purely as a battering ram. I do think it can take this on, though we've talked before, about, there's a lot of shackled mages here, sages. Like, we have not gone up against a really heavy, magically supported Flagrant army. I believe it was in Nazca, and in some fortification we did face off against an unsupported Flagrant communion. And the Flagrant player definitely handed out gems at that point, and they are still piloting their nation, so they have not gone AI yet. So I think a large Flagrant communion with a bunch of gems handed out, combined with one of their really large armies and their super combatants, could make for a significantly harder fight than some of the ones that we've faced before. And you couple that with the fact that we'll be taking this fight right on the border of a fairly powerful enemy, granted an enemy that is very busy with other things, but this is not very far away from their capital. So in a lot of ways, this is going to be easier for Asphodel to reinforce than for us. We're a long way from home. We don't really fully have this area secure yet, right? We have another nation here that might be interested in a resurgence. We don't have our dominion in these locations yet. And then, of course, we're also going to be fighting against Shiniyama as well as Eiryu. Now, granted, Eiryu along this border also is in a similar position, right, where they don't really fully control this. Like, yes, they have some of these provinces, but Agartha is still kicking, absolutely. But still, like, this whole area, we're a little less secure in. So, taking a really costly fight here is a little scary. But at least for the moment, the plan is, to move out and try to finish this off before everything kicks off. Research-wise, things have not changed. Now, we are starting to do a little more forging. Yeah, a little bit of thug gear here, probably for some werewolves, as well as fire in a jar for raiders and counter-raiders. We're also trying to do a bunch of preaching here to bring the enemy dominion down in preparation for moving our pretender in. In terms of what we can see of the wider world, obviously Pelagia lost their pretender here this turn. I believe their capital, is so they still have their capital. They still have a fortification in their cap circle, but things are closing in for them. But hopefully Yis, will be busy. Perhaps they negotiated with Atlantis. Like, hopefully Yis is the one that's going to get Pelagia's capital, which means that, their army is going to be moving away from us. Though I do think with the loss of the monolith, that is going to make life a lot harder for Pelagia to, resist this Yisian stack. In terms of Asphodel's situation, we don't have a great sense of like how the war's going. We can see that Ulm has like some pretty deep raiding, but overall from like the territory that we're mostly able to see, like Asphodel's territory looks pretty contiguous, pretty secure. We haven't really seen the borders shift in any major ways. Man does have this throne fortification under siege and cracked, so we're going to be moving our scout in, I guess a troubadour who is in a scouting role right now, because odds are that these Black Hawks and Black Plate infantry is probably not going to be able to hold this. Yeah, because these Black Plates are just retreats. This is where Ulm lost that force. So while it does look like, man is pushing in a pretty significant way, right next door, we can see a pretty significant stack from Asphodel, who has also managed to, crack this fortification of man. So it'll be interesting to see, does Asphodel go for the trade? Do they shift their army back? Maybe they have like another thug or something, or thug group inside this fortification, similar to, what they pulled off against Ulm's force. We can also see that, Asphodel has a number of fortifications to the north. So it looks like, Vanheim continues to be rolled back. We're not also, seeing any Vanheim flags pop up, in Asphodel's territory, though they may just be sneaking. But yeah, overall, I would say, this war is still somewhat in the balance. Though, of course, our entry should tilt things in our favor, but considering that it got balanced out by a lot of other people essentially declaring war on us, we'll see where everybody's forces actually go. But because of the timing of the nap endings and, the reason, I am expecting that will be the main target. Shiniyama, of course, is otherwise unoccupied. Eiryu, of course, is somewhat occupied. Agartha has been doing, a really good job of surviving, so we won't be getting Eiryu's undivided attention, but Eiryu is quite large. I think they're probably as big as us, maybe a little larger, not actually sure. Actually, we do have a way to kind of gauge this. I definitely would check this periodically during the game, though probably not as often as I should have. So this is the gem income for the major players, which roughly correlates to size. The gem generator globals in particular tend to throw this number, but it also depends, just somewhat on luck, like how many gem producing sites you have in your territory, as well as, how much searching you've done. But if we're going off of just gem income, we are the largest right now. Of course, we do have a pretty significant gem generator. You can see this is where Eternal Pyre was dispelled, and then we recast it. Though Asphodel also has a gem generator, Mother Oak, but it's significantly less than Eternal Pyre. I believe Eternal Pyre is 20 a turn, maybe 30. It is 20. But still, you can see that, in terms of gem income, Asphodel is still second. Eiryu does not have any gem generators at the moment, and they are in third. And if you cut out our gem generator, we're, roughly on par. So I think we are roughly the same size as Eiryu. Man, of course, also relatively large. They do have Stellar Focus, though that's only 5 a turn. So this is probably, somewhat their true size. Ulm probably a little on the smaller side because they do have Earthblood Deepwell. So that's 20 Earth Gems a turn. You can see the jump here. So they're significantly smaller than a lot of these other powers. In fact, you can see that they're probably smaller. It's hard to say. Honestly, kind of surprised, at how small Ulm might be. Perhaps just not that much site searching has gone on. Because at least in terms of gem income, Shiniyama looks like they're bigger because they do not have any gem generators, but they have almost exactly the same amount of gem income as Ulm does. And then, of course, the underwater situation. Neither of them are quite as large as any of the major land powers. But both Atlantis, and Yis do have significant territory, though more or less confined underwater. Yis does have a few land holdings. Not sure if Atlantis has been able to pick any up. Atlantis does have Maelstrom. That's 24 gems a turn, so that's what that jump is about. So of the two, Yis is definitely the stronger. And really no surprises there. So yeah, this is definitely more than we were planning on biting off, but that's often how it goes in Dominions. And I think that more or less covers turn 66.